What's up, peeps? I am back for another video reviewing um, Ridley Scott's third masterpiece. He's made so many great ones. He has fallen off a bit over the years. I mean, I did love Prometheus, but I would probably say that's like his last great thing. I don't know about The Last Duel, I think is what it's called. I didn't watch it, so can't really speak on that one. But this movie, Gladiator, this is the movie that made Russell Crowe, but I'd argue it also made Joaquin Phoenix. He really showed him. This is my favorite Joaquin Phoenix performance. I love Joker, and I understand why some people would pick that one. It's just in this movie he played such a good bad guy. Like the moments where he's just sticking it to Maximus, like the big scene where Maximus reveals himself because he has the iconic helmet on, and then he didn't know who it was, and then you have that reveal, and he was trying to goad Maximus into getting angry to kill him, and he doesn't. But the little stuff he would say, and just he played it so well, and it's like you wanted him to get his. And the thing is, I have seen this movie so many times, he's gonna get his, but it's like you still want him to. You're just waiting for it. He killed it. And then Russell Crowe as Maximus is great. The story, his whole arc is really good. He starts off as Marcus Aurelius, who's Commodus's father. He was a treasured soldier in in the war, but then unfortunately Commodus kills his father, and then basically tries to force Maximus to succumb, make him loyal to him. Maximus refuses, gets arrested. Commodus kills his family. The scene where he finds his family killed is, and I like that they kept it, you did see their legs, but they didn't show, because to be understandable, this movie isn't I think it was R-rated, but there are some scenes you do see blood, but it's not 300 where you're seeing limbs fly off and stuff. I think the action when we got it was really good, and I think they managed to, even though it is a Gladiator movie, because this could have easily have just been a B movie where it has that aesthetic of Rome and about gladiators, but it's just cheap, and it's a very cheap, but they didn't go that route. Ridley Scott did his homework. The set design, the immersion, you actually feel like you're in the time. That's why this is my favorite period piece in film. They really made you feel like you're there. Even down to the dialogue, they got all of it right. The only character I'll admit I didn't really care for was Lucilla. I think Lucilla sounds right. Played by Connie Nielsen, you might know as Wonder Woman's mom. She was just kind of there for me. I did like her ending speech in the end of the film, but she just kind of was there for me. But that's fine. Because, to be honest, this film to me was mainly about Commodus and Maximus is the main character, but Maximus and Commodus. They're the two characters, the central figures. You have Proximo played by Oliver Reed, who I think actually did a really good job as the mentor type character for Maximus. And the thing is, it's interesting how it starts, because he was a slave. He was enslaved, and they really showed you that aspect too, that they did their homework. And you have Jinsu. I cannot say his last name, but you might recognize him. He's in a lot of movies. He was in Guardians. He was in another movie I reviewed, Constantine. And he played Juba. He was another guy who was a slave who became a gladiator, who was forced to become a gladiator. But the thing is, this movie isn't all action either. The big action scenes are really, the opening battle, and then really any of the scenes at the Colosseum. There wasn't just fighting every second. You got to know the politics of of Italy at that, or Rome at that time, and I really liked learning that. They made the dialogue interesting, that you really were interested in what they're talking about. Because this movie, like I said, isn't an action heavy movie. And I think they really did a good job with that. And then Maximus's growth, and then you finally get the finale, because Lucilla was a former lover of Maximus, and she falls for him again. You know, they start building that up a little bit, and then she kisses him because she doesn't have, because they even were, because at the time, this is just that the things were the way they were. Maximus wanted her to love him, even not Maximus, Commodus, even though they're related. She's his sister, and it's like that was the thing back. I mean, obviously, Game of Thrones is another show that did that, but she basically isn't in love with him. She's still in love with Maximus. So basically, in the end, he challenges, because Maximus is also gaining the crowd. Like, he's gaining favor of the crowd. And Commodus wants to stop that. So Commodus tries to kill him in the end. And then we not know how the movie ends. But yeah, I definitely had fun watching this again. It has been a while since I've sat down and watched it. And I think I did the extended, because it's not on a service. Unfortunately, I had to watch it on YouTube. And I think it's the extended. And I don't think I ever had seen the extended before. I think I'd only seen the regular version. But so the extended was about like 3 hours or close to. But this movie is a 10 out of 10. Very rare, very few movies do I give like a flat out 10 that's like perfect rating. But this is it. There's nothing wrong with it. That ending scene, and where Maximus, he kills Commodus, but he dies in the end, and then he asks for his gladiator mates to be freed, and it's such a sad ending. And I heard Ridley Scott wants to do a sequel. No, I'll talk about that more in the end, but no, that's a no for me, dog. But I heavily recommend it if you haven't seen it. It is a bit long, like even the regular edition's like 2 hours and 35 minutes. So it's long, but it's not boring. Like, the dialogue keeps you interested where you're not bored, So, heavily recommend this movie. My next video after this will be Sunday. If I don't do it Sunday, it'll be Monday. But Sunday, where I will review Devil's Advocate. So that'll be my next video. But here we go. But so the movie opens up. We basically get the battle in the beginning, which I thought was shot well. That's the other thing. The cinematography in this movie is incredible, especially when we get to the Colosseum scenes. So Marcus Aurelius's forces win the war, win the battle, and they thank, and he thanks his treasured soldier, Maximus, and because Maximus just wants to get home to his family. And this is where we meet Commodus, who welcomes his father home, and basically you could already tell he just wants power. and I just, before I go fully into it, Commodus's rise is done so good, even though it's not like Palpatine in the prequels where it's a slower build to it. Like, it's kind of quick in this, but it's still done really well. Because like even from the beginning, because I guess I'll kind of jump ahead a little bit. So they return home, from battle, and Marcus has a scene with Maximus, and basically tells him he is not gonna, because he's basically gonna retire, and he doesn't want to give power to his son because he thinks Commodus he thinks his own son's corrupt. And there's even a line where he says he wishes Maximus was his son, because Maximus just wants to get home. He's not into the whole politics of it. But then then Commodus hears of this and kills his father by strangling him. They seemingly have a loving moment. And even for a second, even though I'd already seen this movie, Commodus was playing it like, oh, father, I'll, change. Like, he was in tears, and they're hugging each other. And he strangles his own father to make it, and basically says he died of old age. calls Maximus in there and basically tells Maximus, "You gotta swear loyalty to me because he's the swear loyalty to him because he's the new emperor." And it's like right away, it's like, and I like that, like that switch, like basically because he realizes I have the power now, so he switches it up. Maximus refuses because he basically thinks or knows that Commodus killed his father. So, because Maximus doesn't see him as the leader, Commodus has his people try to arrest him, the Praetorian Guard, and Maximus manages to escape when they take him to a location. He kills a couple of soldiers, and then he gets a horse. And while he's there, Commodus has his men arrive at his the location of his wife and his wife's house. And it's such a sad scene because the son knows his father was, at least at this point, he thinks his father's in the army, and because he sees a group of knights coming, the son's all happy and he's all ready to greet them. Bam! He just gets ran over. It's so sad, man. And then you see because you kind of, they cut back and forth where you see Maximus riding on the horse. The horse even falls over. But then, when he gets back, he sees like fire and he finds the bodies of his wife and child hanging. It's so sad, man. But Russell Crowe's acting in this scene is so good. Like when in any kind of movie like this where you're playing a father or even a mother, where you find your wife or your husband dead, or and your kid, if you play it like that actually happened, that shows how good of an actor you are. And he really showed it, man. It's like you feel for him. But then he ends up succumbing to injuries. He gets taken by slavers who then sail him. And you actually get a cameo from one of the guy who from The Mummy who had Rick in the jail, who had tried to hang him, that Evie was trying to arrange a deal with. You see him. He gets picked up. Maximus gets picked up by Proximo, who's a gladiator, and basically trains Maximus into being a gladiator. This is where we see Juba and another guy. Basically, this is kind of like his group of gladiators he's going to be with. While this is happening, you're kind of seeing Maximus trying to get with his sister and trying to get power and more. Like, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but there's a scene where, I guess this is a deleted scene, where he has a group of his soldiers execute a father and a son. It was sad, man. He's such a good bad guy in this, man. Like, he plays such a smarmy weasel that how he got into power, but he's in power now. So, but then, so we see Maximus start training, and there's even a scene, this is where we get the are you not entertained scene, whereas they have a little, there's like a little coliseum where they're training, have some gladiators. Maximus and his group of gladiators kill those guys and basically show he's ready. And then this is where they get transported to the Colosseum. And then this is the Colosseum sequence. Just everything. The set design. And I think another thing I should have mentioned is the soundtrack. Soundtrack is fucking beautiful. Especially the song in the end of the movie. But the score is so good. Like, it's not over the top. It fits this type of movie. And it fits. But, so Maximus gets taken to the Gladiator. This is where we get the Colosseum sequence. And this is where we get that iconic helmet he has in the movie. Him and his guys kill a couple of gladiators, and just the sequence. The action itself is really good. Yeah, it's not like 300, even though 300 came out 7 years later. But, where limbs aren't just flying. There is one scene you do kind of see. You do get decapitated, but I'm fine with that. They didn't go over the top. There are some scenes that you do see, like, blood splattered stuff. It doesn't have to be a gore fest, all the time. And because this movie is more story-oriented. And even like Ridley Scott was never fully like super gore guy. I mean, even in like the first Alien was not that gory. Um, so after Maximus and his men defeat Commodus, wants to meet this because they just call him this because he doesn't know it's Maximus under the helmet. He confronts him, and this is because there's a scene earlier where Lucius, who's Lucila's son, um, has like a talks to Maximus. So this is where Maximus reveals himself, and basically the crowd, because of the crowd reaction, forces Commodus to not kill the gladiators, and then we get a scene between Lucilla and Commodus because she knows he's a lot. Not Commodus, Maximus. And Maximus almost like basically doesn't want anything to do with her because she was trying to defend herself, like, you know, and it's true more than likely, but you know that she was in fear because Maximus basically thinks because he mentioned his wife and child being killed. It's still like this whole movie. The tone of it is perfect. And I think that's why I like movies like this, or just at this era, man. Like, they let things be serious. You know, there's very little, but not a lot, but there's some bits of humor in this movie, but it's done well. And like I said, very small. It's really serious, not dark, but like very serious movie for the most part. But, so yeah, after that, this is where Commodus has those guys killed, like I mentioned. Then the next Colosseum sequence is Commodus has to face an undefeated gladiator. And there's a scene where they kind of like a moment of respect for each other. And Maximus has guys holding tigers. It basically is he's trying to ensure that Maximus dies. Maximus manages to defeat the gladiator. He stabs him in the foot with the other side of an axe. Oh man, that I remember anything like I mentioned, anything with feet just always get me. But and Maximus doesn't want to execute because even the crowd's like chanting execute him and kill him, but Maximus decides to spare the other gladiator, and Commodus tries to goad him into killing him, even by bringing up Maximus's kid and wife, but Maximus walks off and doesn't give in. Then Maximus has a secret meeting with Lucilla and like another senator. Basically, they want to take Commodus's power, but Commodus overhears this when there's a scene with Lucius where Lucius kind of lets it slip. Basically, he threatens them and this is where Maximus's this is where unfortunately Proximo dies. And Proximo was a really good character. You know, he's the one who basically told Maximus to play to the crowd. He was the one because he knew it, and he even revealed that Marcus Aurelius spared him. And that's why he always had that respect for him. So, the Praetorian Guard show up at the Gladiator location, and some of Maximus's friends end up, including Proximo, get killed. And Maximus manages to escape, seemingly, and meet with a guy named Cicero, but they end up getting captured. And you have a really good scene between Lucilla and Joaquin Phoenix. I'll admit, this is one of the few scenes where Connie Nielsen, it's not her fault. It's just, you know, how good Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe were in this movie. It's just, you know, maybe it's just you can't. And I still think she was fine. It's not like I'm saying she's bad. It's just, you know, she just wasn't as, like, she didn't stand out as much compared to those other actors. And then Maximus wants Commodus. Sorry, I keep fucking switching their names around. Sorry, Commodus wants to gain the favor of the audience back, so he decides to challenge Maximus to a one-on-one duel. And this is pretty much the final sequence of the movie. And the other thing is, for a movie that's like, because I watched the extended, it took 2 hours and like 50 something minutes, I think the extended is. It's not boring. Like, it's paced well. It goes. Like, it pretty much goes from the beginning. You get that opening battle, and then you get the scene between Maximus and Marcus Aurelius, and then you get where where Commodus takes over. So it's not like, it goes pretty much. So the fight goes, and mostly Maximus beats his ass. There's even a scene he beats Commodus just with his fists. Commodus tries to grab him with the knife. Maximus grabs it, and basically, but he does get hit a few times, and Maximus manages. This is where Commodus gets his comeuppance and gets stabbed in the throat, and he ends up dying. But unfortunately, so does Maximus. He even has like a quick flash of his wife and kid before he dies. And he has like some dying words with Lucilla. Basically asks her to make him like a soldier of Rome and release his fellow gladiators. And Lucilla gives a speech, and then the audience kind of are with him because of it, and they take his body and basically give him like a proper burial. And then that night, Juba has figurines of his wife and child, basically so he can be where he died and say that he'll see him at some point, and then you get the dope music in the end and the credits roll. But it's an all-around great movie. Just you get the politics of Rome, but you also get a dope gladiator movie. The set pieces, the performances, specifically from Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe, but even Oliver Reed, I think is his name, who was Proximo, did well as the mentor. It's always good to have like a mentor type of figure, even though he bought, you gotta understand this was at a time. I'm not one of these people who look at like a specific time period and try to look at it with a modern lens. That's just how the time was. Yeah, the guy may have bought a slave, but he ends up growing an attachment with Maximus, And, also it's good for Maximus because, unfortunately, Marcus Aurelius, who we saw as the real leader, died, and he didn't even get to say goodbye. And then you had another kind of father figure died, too. It's well done. But the VIP of the movie is Joaquin Phoenix. It's just him as Commodus. He played such a sniveling worm. He played it so fucking good. Like, he really made you like, I fucking can't wait till this motherfucker dies. Even though he's gonna die in the end. But just still, you're just... That scene he had with Lucilla, man, where he was just... Because he just wants her love, but even though it's just fucking weird, obviously. But just he played such a good bad guy. I gotta give it to Joaquin Phoenix. Easily his best performance in the film. Don't get me wrong, I loved him in Joker, but he played him so well. And then we get the thumbs down. The iconic thumbs down scene is so good. But man, all around a great film. I heavily recommend it if you haven't seen it. 10 out of 10. One of Ridley Scott's best. And like I mentioned earlier, he wants to do a sequel, but no. The movie to me ends. Where would you go? Like, he doesn't... It's not like Maximus had a son that lived, that he can live on. There's really nowhere they can go, and I think the other problem with it would just come off like a generic medieval movie, or like movie about Rome. It would almost be like a parody of the first one. Like, what are you gonna do? Maximus is dead. And I don't really want to see a Gladiator 2 with a different character. I just don't. I'm not